Hello and welcome to Deliverable 8. You have finally made it to the very last one and you're about to be done. There's only a couple of things left to do for this deliverable, along with sort of your end of semester submissions to compile. So we'll jump right into the new stuff and then we will go into everything that you need to submit. So the first couple of videos here are going to be covering cost estimation. And after that, we'll do a little bit of scheduling. The scheduling part will be a Gantt chart, which we'll go over, and you pretty much just copy what I do in Excel to make the template and fill it in with your own sort of scheduling items. After that, you're done. You're done with all the work that you need to do. You just need to compile some of your submissions, so combine some of your PDFs, double check your plan sheet, and the last video is going to go over everything that you need to do for your final submittals. So I am here in my analysis folder, right? One that we made way back in Deliverable 4 or something. And here I have the cost estimation template. This is in Canvas. So check the Canvas assignment for Deliverable 8 and you will find the cost estimation template there. If I open it up, you can see here a list of some items, some unit cost, some unit quantities, and then 2 blank columns. This is going to serve as your structure for your cost estimation. Now, for cost estimation, we're pretty much just looking at materials, starting to estimate equipment, labor, time schedules, engineering costs. All of that gets to be pretty complicated. So we are not going to get into that. Here, though, you can see a list of 22 items that I've provided with costs and the ability to add more items. So the general idea here is you can see the list of items on the left here, for example, concrete, and a unit quantity is provided, so 1 cubic yard of concrete, and that there's an associated cost per that unit quantity. And you need to figure out how much of that quantity you need. Some of these items you're looking at and you're going to be like, how do I do that? How do I know how much concrete I need? Well, in the next video, we're going to use quantity takeoff in Civil 3D to actually find some of these values. So we're going to go over that there. Other of these you might be able to do already. So for example, 2 of these are roof steel. If you go back to Deliverable 7 and the problem that you did, you were given 2 different beam sizes, and those beam sizes, because they are both a different size, that's the left number, and a different weight, that's the right number, they cost a different amount per linear foot. You have the roof frame structure with those, 2 girders, and I think it was 7 or 8 beams, so you have the ability to find how many linear feet you need of each of these steel beams. And so you would write that here, for example, it's 70 feet. I don't think it actually is, but say it was. With 70 feet, and in the line item cost, you can multiply your quantity by your unit cost to get your total line item cost. And once you've gone through and done this for every item at the very bottom, you will just add them all up, right? Sum the whole column. And that will be your project's total material cost. Something like that, right? Now, one has already been provided for you. That's the column steel. Everybody's concrete pad is going to have 4 steel columns on it, and this is how much they cost. Everything else you had to figure out, though. So, for example, cut and fill, if you open up your volume report or you look at the volume summary on your deliverable, then you'll be able to see what your total cut and your total fill was. Someone had to use equipment and move that dirt, so you had to pay for the equipment and pay for the labor. So there's an associated cost for each cubic yard that you have to move. On top of that, though, there's also a cost for trucking any extra material on or off the site that you need. So this is your net cut or fill value. So for example, if you had 200 yards of cut and 100 yards of fill, I would need to put 200 here and 100 here. and the amount that I need to be trucked is 100 cubic yards, right? But it says that a truck can hold 10 cubic yards, so that would be 10 trucks worth, right? Does that make sense? So you need to go through and fill some of these in. Some of them you can do, for example, any light poles you add, we will use quantity takeoff in Civil 3D for you to, look to see how to do that. But you can also just look at your plan sheet, and if you know that you put in 6 light poles, you can just go ahead and put 6 there, right? You don't need to fill in every single one of these quantities if you don't use it. For example, if you don't use permeable concrete, don't put a quantity. You can either leave it blank or you can put 0, right? If you have no solar panels on your site or no bike racks, don't put those at a cost. Put it at 0. If you have, say, 7 garbage cans, 3 recycling bins, and 3 composting bins, then make sure you're accounting for all of them. So I put 13, for example. Lastly, and this is more up to your site, but you can add items depending on any unique features you have. So if you have, for example, a fountain in your pond that has an item cost, so I would write something like fountain, and you need to find a number. It doesn't need to be perfect, but at least put in some amount of effort to research a range of how much this could cost. So it shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to find a number, but it also shouldn't only take you 10 seconds, right? So don't just make it up, but make it be somewhat realistic. So you can add any items to the end of this as you see fit based on your project items. The last one I specifically want to go over is BMP cost. So this is, you can see here, determined by your total square footage, not including your pond, for any natural BMPs. So something like a rain harvester, which is a bunch of barrels off your roof system, wouldn't count. But anything like those wet berms, dry berms, rain gardens, all of that stuff, where basically this is going to be like a landscaping cost in a sense. So you do that based off of square footage, and when we do QTO, you can take Civil 3D's properties for all of your items, and it will automatically compute some of this stuff for you, which is great. So this is one of the things you'll need to submit. You need to fill in all of your quantities or leave them blank, find your line item costs and your total cost, and add any items that are on your project that aren't covered in this list specifically. If you have any questions about items or how you would calculate a quantity based off of a unit quantity, feel free to ask on Piazza or in office hours. The next video will go over QTO, and that will show you how to get some of these quantities for things like concrete.